Everyone, and welcome. What am I looking at? This is the first battle that I'm going to cast of the Polish Championship. Polish Championship? Yes, Polish Championship. These guys have actually started their own tournament with 40 players. You heard that right, 40 players. I did not realize there were 40 players in Poland, but there are. And they are doing their own tournament. It's a long play tournament. They have 40 players spread out across groups. As far as I understand, they're going to qualify into a final stage with 16 players. And I will be casting the group games for now and eventually the final stage as well. So I have a lot of replays to get through. So let's start with this one. It's the first one I was supposed to cast. And we have Orkowywudz. Now the Polish are probably going to laugh at how I pronounce all these Polish names, but that's okay. And he is playing the Tomb Kings against the Lizardmen of Mikel. I'm not familiar with either player, and to be honest, I'm not familiar with most of these Polish players. I only know a couple of them, but from what I can see, these are two rather competent armies, so I'm looking forward to see what will happen here. This is a blind cast, by the way. I have not looked at the results. I have not looked at these replays in advance, so I think that will also make the cast more interesting for you guys, because I will be just as surprised as you are when some crazy stuff happens in these battles. So, what do we have for Orko? I'm just gonna call him Orko, that's easier. He has Skeleton Spearman, three of them, or four of them actually, and then King Neheke's Scorpion Legion. He has Blessed Legion of Bahakt, which will be very useful in decreasing the armor of enemies, although there's no archers to add on to that damage, but I guess he wants to debuff stuff that's in melee with that. He has two Ushapti Great Bows, great at sniping large monsters, Temple Guard, and all that stuff, but difficult to protect. That's the challenge. We have Arkan the Black. Let's look at what he has. Doomblade of Arkan, Staff of Nagash for more magic, and ability recharge. Liber Mortis going to buff his own units. Just Spirit Leech, okay. My Will Be Done, going to buff the units around him. It's actually a pretty powerful aura. The Curse, if he takes damage, he will damage units around him, and Life Leeching is going to increase his power recharge rate. Now we have two Tomb Guard Halberds. We don't see these guys a lot, but I guess he wanted them. Only Halberd unit in the game that has silver shields, by the way. Or shields in general, for that matter. Well, I guess there's Temple Guard as well, but they have bronze shields. These guys have silver shields. Now, interesting thing about them, they actually deal less damage than regular Tomb Guard because of slower attack speed. But I guess he wants them for the charge defense and the armor piercing anti-large, which might pay off if he can get them onto the right targets. There's Necropolis Knights with Alberts in the back here as well. Poison, weapon strength, they're basically like slower demigryphs. And there's one of those units hidden in here as well. Now, for the Lizardmen of Mikel, we have a unit of Skink Skirmishers, Vanguard deployed up front, called one Spear Riders, an Ancient Salamander, which is like a mobile living artillery piece, the Umbral Tide, the Salamander Hunting Pack, which can drop some serious fire on any lightly armored units, and armored units as well, actually, but I've seen them mostly do very good damage against blobs of lightly armored infantry. But they also have anti-large, so they're kind of going to kill anything they shoot at if they get to shoot at it. Gold One Spear Riders here. Saurus Warriors. How many of them does he have? He has two. You kind of can't go wrong with them. Skinks cohorts with javelins. The Lord is a Slan Mage Priest of Fire. This is the first time I ever see a Slan Mage Priest of Fire. He has the Fireball, Cascading Fire Cloak, the Burning Head, and Piercing Bolts of Burning. Blood Statuette of Spite, which is like a little Fate of Buna. Aura of Quetzal, which will grant melee defense and armor. Shield of the Old Ones, which will grant damage resistance and leadership and banishment. So this is one expensive slan. And he also has some Temple Guard and red-crested skinks, which I'm not sure what he wants to use them on, because they're, well, basically anti-armored infantry, but maybe they're good against something else that I don't realize. So the Tomb Kings of Orko, they're gonna be moving up, and this is Castle Drakenov. So there's a little bit of terrain here that you can put up a defensive position next to, so you can cover one flank from attack, which is very interesting when you're playing this defensive style with Ushabti. Now, what's less interesting about it is that you have these trees here. And the bad thing about the trees is, well, the enemy can obviously move through them and get cover from your ranged units. You can already see some of the Ushabti bows here hitting the trees, but even with that said, that's some good damage on the Ancient Salamander, which will constantly be zoned out by these Ushabti, I'm afraid. So the infantry has to push forward, there's no other way. And for now, the Tomb Kings are pushing out their Ushabti and, yeah, just getting some free damage done. But keep in mind, this is 2,200 gold worth of units, so they have to do a lot to then stop this tide of lizardmen that's coming towards them. There's also 3 cavalry units versus 2 from the Tomb Guard, so in theory, 1 cavalry unit should be able to get through. Although I guess these Umbral Tide aren't your traditional cavalry. So really, if I had to guess, I'd say that the Tomb Kings, so long as they don't get out of position too much, should be able to defend their Ushabti quite well. But of course, they shouldn't waste their Necropolis Knights in a far-off engagement. They should be used defensively. I'm not sure who comes out on top in this engagement, Cold One Spear Riders against Necropolis Knights. I would guess Necropolis Knights, but in any case, I don't think they should really commit to this engagement, but they are. So the Javelins, they're chucking some Javelins into these Spearmen, which isn't going to do too much. The Skeleton Spearmen have taken a lot of damage, which might open up a path here. The Tomb Kings don't have a lot in reserve. On this side, Necropolis Knights have started fighting. And we are about to see who comes out on top. Now, with the help of these King Skirmishers, I'm pretty sure the Necropolis Knights are not going to win that. This side, we've got Cold One Spear Riders trying to move around, but the Umbral Tide got charged by Necropolis Knights, and that's not ideal at all. They're more of a ranged unit, don't want to be caught in melee. Okay, they're kind of squishing the Necropolis Knights between them now, but yeah, I just don't think that's a good use of this unit. It's so much wasted damage potential, which could have gone on to any of these units, really. But the Lizardmen, at the very least, they have the infantry advantage, and they're pushing through. They're under fire from, well, all of these units, really, and they probably want to do something about that. But for now, at the very least, they're taking out the Tomb King cavalry, and thus creating some space for their own cavalry, which may see them dealing with these Ushabti, because that's really what it's going to come down to. Can they shut down the Ushabti and the Blessed Legion of Bahakt in time, or will they lose their most important units to these guys? Okay, I believe we're about to see a burning head here, but I believe it's also going to miss. Yeah, it's going to just skim this unit right here and do absolutely nothing. So yeah, that was a shame from the Lizardmen's perspective. Now the Cold One Knights or Spear Riders here. Cold One Knights, yeah, those exist as well, but not in the Lizardmen roster, thankfully. They have charged onto the Ushabti, but they've also charged into the Halberds, and they're probably going to rampage here because they're also being shot by the Blessed Legion of Bahakt. And they are getting good damage on the Ushabti, but look at the Ushabti. Only 2 of them have fallen so far. They are crumbling, but they will probably stabilize. And look at the damage they're putting on that Slan Mage Priest. Oh, big banishment coming in, potentially. This unit needs to move. It's starting to move. Ah, that wasn't a banishment. That was Piercing Bolts of Burning. Whoa, this entire unit is almost gone. Nice. That's the best Piercing Bolts of Burning I've seen in a very long time. It's a spell that doesn't get picked often, because obviously it can easily get dodged, but in this case, This unit stood still, so it was almost completely destroyed. The Ushabti, though, sort of unopposed. The other unit of Cold Ones is inexplicably pushing into the center of Skeleton Warriors here, slowly getting killed by archers and everything. Another Burning Head is going to miss quite hard. The Umbral Tide here is shooting away at the Ushabti. Might be able to take out a unit, but the Slan is dying, and that was a extremely expensive Slan. I'm not sure about the cost of this Slan, but it had 4 spells and it had basically all the abilities, and now it's dead. And the Ushabti summon has come in. The Tomb King infantry, of course, is dwindling, but it's still standing, and they still have the Kepra Guard, which is a very elite unit. And meanwhile, the Ushabti are firing away as well. So I would say that this is looking rather grim for the Lizardmen. By the way, if you're wondering what the cat is doing here, it's well, hiding the timer, but I guess it counts up now instead of down, so maybe I don't need it there. Because in replays, the timer used to go down, so it would tell you how much time was left, which was a bit of a spoiler. But yeah, for the next battle I'll record, which is the second battle between these guys, I'll remove it. Because obviously it's not necessary if it counts up instead of down. Now, the Temple Guard are also taking fire, and let's have a look at the kills already. The Ushabti didn't get many kills, but they did so much damage to single entities. The Ancient Salamander got shot, and the Slan Mage got shot, and the Cold One Knights got shot, and really these Ushabti, they've been, I won't say uncontested, but they've been almost uncontested for most of the battle, especially this unit. And that was really the win condition for the Tomb Kings. Because right now, what do the Lizardmen have? They have infantry that's been pushing against the Tomb King infantry and killing it, but never really getting through the lines to apply that pressure to the back line. They also lost their cavalry, even though they ended up with cavalry advantage after Orko lost his Necropolis Knights rather early on. But especially by putting this cavalry unit in the center here, instead of bringing it around to pressure these Ushabti great bows, I think he didn't manage to press that advantage properly. Because what we saw then was that one unit was able to get onto a Ushabti, that's why it took so much damage. But they were getting shot in the flank. And if there had been another unit to attack the other group of archers at that point, the other unit of Cold One Riders wouldn't have died so easily, and in the end they didn't really achieve much in the main line there either, because look, the Tomb King main line is still holding. So yeah, I think the Lizardman army definitely had potential, and it's fun seeing a Slan Mage Priest of Fire, but this is not what I expect, micro-wise at least, to come out of this army, if it's trying to win. Losing the Umbral Tide, losing the Ancient Salamander, losing the Slan too easily. He did kill a lot of infantry, but the essential units remained, and that way Orko is actually going to win that battle and score a 1-0. He did throw away his Necropolis Knights rather quickly, as I said, but there was a lot of wasted value, or, you know, no value from the Ancient Salamander and the Umbral Tide. Also, if you look at the infantry, there's 9 infantry units here, and there's 8 here. Okay, he didn't have as much of an infantry advantage as I might have thought, but a lot of these infantry units were also in the back. Now, if pressure had been applied to them by some of these units, I'm not even saying go straight into them, but, you know, just keep them on their toes, then maybe those units could have been distracted from dealing with the Cold One Spear Riders that were coming in to deal with Ushabti, which were really the essential unit there. Also, I liked the spells that he did use. Those Burning Heads were a little bit wasted though, but maybe if he cut down on like 1 or 2 more spells, he would have been able to afford slightly better units to win that mainline engagement faster, because in the end, the Tomb Kings have to do a lot of damage before their mainline crumbles, and the Skeleton Spears, they did all end up going down, but The Ushapti were too comfortable in that battle, and that's really what sealed the deal there. Also with the Slan Mage Priest eventually dying. So well played to Orko. Better luck to Mikel in the second battle. I'll see you on the next video when we see the second battle of this series.